Good morning, everybody. Glad all of you big kids are with us today. We are excited that you are here. Way to go, Westridge Kids Singers. You are amazing. Yeah. So we are finishing up the Holiday Hang-Up series today, and our goal throughout these last few weeks is to bring some peace into the chaos of the holidays and help us find a better perspective so that we can breathe just a little easier this year. Today, I'd like to look at a story that may be familiar to you. It is the interaction between two sisters and Jesus. It's in the book of Luke, and it goes like this. Jesus continued towards Jerusalem and came to another village. Martha, a resident of that village, welcomed Jesus into her home. Her sister Mary went and sat at Jesus' feet, listening to him teach. Meanwhile, Martha was anxious about all the hospitality arrangements. Martha, interrupting Jesus, "Lord, why don't you care that my sister is leaving me to do all of this work by myself? Tell her to get over here and help me." And Jesus said, "Oh, Martha, Martha, you are so anxious and concerned about a million details. But really, only one thing matters. And Mary has chosen that one thing, and I won't take it away from her." I've heard this story many times, and I thought it would be interesting to bring this into a modern Christmas Day interpretation. And so this is my version. It goes like this. It was Christmas Eve, and Martha was hosting the evening's festivities when she received a text from her friend Jesus that he was in his Uber on the way back from the airport. The week had been a little crazy with the crowds at the grocery store, the kids' Christmas pageant, cleaning the house for all the guests arriving. And she could hear her family and friends in the other room as they were shuffling in with their presents, boots, and trays of food. Martha loved having people over. Getting everything done just right really stressed her out. Her sister Mary popped her head into the kitchen, letting her know that Mom and Dad had just arrived with Uncle Hans Gruber. And Mary leaned in and gave Martha's shoulders a squeeze and said, "Why didn't you let me come over yesterday and help you? I called you a couple of times." Martha wiped her hands on her apron and said, "You know, I like things done a certain way, Mary. I just did it myself." Mary sighed and said, "You know what, today it's going to be a great day. Don't stress out about everything. Our family and friends are over. Let's just enjoy being together." Ding dong! Mary and Martha looked at each other and knew he was finally here. Martha ran to the door, and there stood Jesus back from his travels. Come in, Martha said. "It's cold out there. We're so glad you're here." As everyone piled into the entryway, Martha could see the shoes scattered everywhere and the smell of something burning wafting through the air. She hustled back into the kitchen to check on her meal, and out of the corner of her eye, she could see that the playroom had looked like a bomb had dropped off in there. The dog somehow managed to get into the garbage, and of course, she forgot to buy more eggs. And as she finished setting the table, she heard the laughter from the family room. And she looked over and she saw her sister Mary with her ugly Christmas sweater. Just hearing all about Jesus' travels, doesn't she realize we have a dinner to get on the table, Martha huffed to herself. I just wish Christmas was over. Does that sound familiar? In frustration, Martha slammed a couple pots down to really accent how hard she was working. You know what? I know who can fix this, thought Martha. And she walked in with all this confidence into the family room and said, "Hey, Jesus, I am glad you are here, but we have a house full of people, and didn't you notice that my sister is just leaving me here to do all this work by myself?" Mary shot her sister a stunned look and mouthed to her, "Are you kidding me, Martha?" "Jesus, can you please just tell her to get over here and help me?" Jesus smiled and said, "Martha, thank you for opening up your home. And I have known you for a long time, that you get anxious, stressed, and concerned about every little detail. But today, Really, only one thing matters. And your sister Mary has chosen that one thing, and I am not going to take it away from her. Does any of that sound familiar? I love that the Bible, it just stops the story right there. We don't get to see the reaction of either sister or what happened after that. It just ends with Jesus' wisdom. Only one thing matters. Whether it is during the holiday season or any day beyond that, we all have stressors that play a part in our life. And I do want to recognize that there are various degrees of anxiety and stress, and if those feelings you feel are like consuming your life, I don't want to discount that. And this now becomes an opportunity for you to talk to a trusted professional to help you, because you, your friends, and your family, you do not have to walk through this alone. So today we're going to look through this story and learn from the characters and see how they can better help us understand our own stress and anxiety and where that comes from. The first thing I thought of is comparison. And a great example of this is what people put on the front of their Christmas cards. They're in their Christmas letters, or what we see on people's social media feeds. They get to edit, crop, and filter until it looks picture perfect. And we see that, and internally, we wonder, how did they do that? Their kids are sitting perfectly, and they look like they love each other so much. They have a nicer, cleaner house than ours, where you think, wow, that is a really fancy vacation. Gosh, I wish my career had taken off like that. And even silly stuff, like hairlines. I cannot tell you how many times as a child my dad wished he had Geraldo Rivero's hairline. Isn't that right, Dad? My brother Jeff is here today. He can attest to that as well. It's just like that little elf on the shelf, just hanging out on your shoulder, just whispering to you, see, she can do it. He has it all together. Why can't you? It's that nagging, chirping throughout your day, reminding you of your flaws and making things seem like you can never measure up. It becomes this raging war inside our minds, but comparison, it does not tell the whole story. That perfect vacation possibly kept adding to their credit card debt that they just can't seem to ever get out of, and they're really in a financial stressful situation, but they don't want anyone to know things have really gotten hard. Or that perfect hairline and lovely smile is just hiding the fact that he is having real trouble at work, and he may not have his job by the end of the year. By allowing comparison to run wild in your mind, it can be dangerous. So it's wise to share your feelings with someone else instead of letting it keep just rolling around up there. Because when we say it out loud, we begin to see the reality of it. And we need to be cautious of how all of this is affecting the people around us. And for parents especially, it's those little ears and little eyes, because let me tell you, they hear and see everything. Teddy Roosevelt's motto is true, that comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison at times only breeds anxiety and discontent. And you could just feel that rising up within Martha as she was on a whirlwind, a mission to get everything done, and out of the corner of her eye, comparing her work to her sister's. I like the way the Message translates Romans 12:6. It says this: let's just go ahead and be what we are made to be, without enviously or pridefully comparing ourselves with each other, or trying to be something we aren't. You didn't feel any joy coming from Martha. Instead of being excited to prepare a space for her family and feel at home, she made it all about the details and comparing her roles to her sisters. What would it have been like if Martha, or even us, have chose not to compare but sought joy instead? The second is setting personal expectations. We all have expectations, but a large majority of the time, we never really choose to communicate that to others. When both of our kids were born, they didn't magically sleep through the night. All parents have to go through this half-dead zombie phase of their life, and I wonder how I ever did that. So, like most nights, I got up to feed Edie, and we had a rocking chair in her bedroom after I was done feeding her. And I loved our kids as babies, but I also treasured sleep. So I was just a touch frustrated during those times. And I'd look over at my husband. He was laying there, serene, snoring. And I thought to myself, he has no idea what I am doing every night, getting this baby back to bed. Soon my rocking got a little bit more aggressive, a little louder. Maybe from time to time I'd add in a little just to rouse him. But he didn't take the hint. And I went on like this, tired and annoyed, and I eventually just got the baby back to bed by myself. I didn't tell him about this whole one-sided interaction until Edie was a little older, and he just looked at me, and you know what he said? It was really smart. Why didn't you just wake me up and ask me? I would have done it. Oh, well, never thought of that. And that is what most of us do, right? Because throughout our lives, we get so frustrated with others, just like Martha did with her sister, and we set these unattainable expectations of ourselves, and we believe that everybody else should live up to the same standard and do in the same way. Guilty. It's choosing to communicate daily, even hourly sometimes, in a loving way. And yes, it's possible that the other person is going to say no, but most likely they would love to have the opportunity to be a part of things. And we then allow ourselves to lessen that mental stress. And third would be the poor me martyr syndrome. Unfortunately, we all fall short in all of our stress in the small things in life, and it ends up sounding like a little bit of a pity party. But we need to be able to shift our mindset that maybe this isn't really about us. We may not be able to understand why our Christmas meal doesn't turn out the way we planned, but we can control our reaction. We throw some frozen pizzas into the oven and still spend it with the ones we love. When we have that perspective, we can realize it is ourself that needs to learn something rather than blaming other people. So that's my gift to you today, to bring a little bit more peace by throwing out comparison, understanding our own expectations, and forgetting about being a martyr. And those will hopefully help alleviate some of those stressful roadblocks in the way as we head into this busy week. And like I said, if these stresses seem a lot more heavier on your heart, please reach out and talk to someone. Martha maybe sounds like she gets a bad rap through this whole scenario. However, I really feel she's like my spirit animal. She does one thing in this story that is very important to note, and it may have been in haste. But Martha, she goes right to the source, the one who can ultimately fix it. We have these kids' Advent cards at home. We read them during the Christmas season. They have a bunch of questions on them, and we read them to the kids. And our son Reed's answer to mostly every question is what, Reedy? Jesus. That's right. It's usually yelled every night as well. It's as simple as that. We need to go right to Jesus. Martha went to one person who can actually fix things. And it may not be the answer or the timing that we had planned on, but God reminds us in Hebrews 13:5, I will never leave you, and I will always be by your side. The second Jesus was born into this world on that holy night, God's plan for us, it was revealed in that little baby, and it forever changed our eternity. He will always be by our side and willing to be with you through the stress, and the joy of this world. It's amazing to know that we get to have audience with the King of Kings at any given moment. When Martha went to him with her request, Jesus heard her. He accepted her where she was. You didn't see him act surprised or what she was doing, or he wasn't offended or annoyed. He reminded her, though, only one thing really matters, and Mary has chosen the one thing, and I will not take it away from her. Jesus didn't blame Martha for being concerned on what needed to be done. He just wanted her to understand where her focus should be. And when we are in the midst of freaking out, do we choose to focus it all on Jesus or all the other little things? When we lose sight of that, our focus and devotion, it just becomes busy work. So how would this story have been any different with the lens of joy added rather than stress? Mary is thankful for her time with family and friends, and Martha, she gets to celebrate this Christmas with a table lovingly prepared, and there's a roof over their heads, and they have the opportunity to spend time with the ones they love. It really comes down to Jesus' words. Only one thing truly matters this Christmas season and every day of our lives. When he should be our one focus, the God of the universe, he is solely focused on you. He wants you to be a part of his story. So how are you going to celebrate that? How will you shift your focus not on the busy work, but solely on the one thing that mattered that holy night long ago? No matter where you are in your relationship with him, you can know that there's one less worry that you need to have, because he is never, ever going to take his focus off of you. If we look at the night of Christmas Eve with Mary and Joseph, let's just say that was not an ideal birthing situation, okay? And all the imperfection, he came into this world perfect. And Christmas, it came anyway. The joy of the world came. And that is where our focus needs to lie this season, on the one who is the joy of the world.